let's start with why. What are the biggest reasons why someone would start a business or create a real estate asset or create an intellectual property asset? And here I want to start with the business focus, beyond the typical, I want to be rich or I want to be financially free type of answers. So I'm going to give you 7 reasons why you, me, want to create assets. These are like 7 huge benefits. And then in the next couple of videos, I'm going to give you a few more that are very specific to real estate. And I think this will really open up your mind. But let's start with business for now. So number 1 is multiple streams of income, because when most people think about starting a business, they're often focused on the income that it could bring into themselves and their family. And I think this makes a lot of sense, because building a business isn't just about a single paycheck. It's about creating a foundation for potentially multiple streams of income. And this is super important for a few reasons. I think first, it diversifies our personal income. Right now, I'm assuming that you have a job, you have a profession, an occupation, some kind of regular income. But there's a dependency on that single income stream, right? If that stops, things could get tight real quick. And when you start a business, you create an additional income stream. And this, I think, is going to give us more security and more flexibility. You're no longer dependent on just one paycheck. But here's the key. It's not about setting up as many streams as possible all at once. You're going to get very excited. If you're like me, you see opportunity everywhere, and it's like shiny object syndrome. You could see yourself or envision yourself starting that type of business or this type of business or that type of business. And for right now, I want you to really just focus on one. I think a lot of us will want to potentially start 3, 4, 5 businesses at one time, but it doesn't work like that. I don't want you to spread yourself too thin. We're gonna help you focus on creating just one business asset as your starting point. This is gonna be a solid base to build from. This is what I like to call your home base. So think of it this way. If you're trying to push 3 rocks up a hill at one time, all that happens when you move from one to the other is they keep falling back down. But if you're able to get one rock to the top, now you have a strong foundation and you can start expanding from that point. I'm gonna tell you a story real quick. When I was 24 years old, I was engaged to my wife, Kelly, and we were planning our future. And one of our goals was to build a house together. We had both saved up enough money, around $45,000, to put down on a house. And we knew of a lot that went for sale in this development by a guy named Ken. He was a big time developer outside of Cleveland. He's this incredibly successful guy with a ton of businesses. And my dad knew Ken, so we set up a meeting. And Ken talked for about 10 or 15 minutes, and he was sharing stories about his life and his business. And it was just inspiring for me because I was a potential entrepreneur. And so I wanted to start sharing some of my ideas. And I was bouncing around from this thing to this thing and this thing. And I remember Ken just stopping me, and he said, "Listen, man, always remember your home base." And I thought that was a little weird. I asked him sort of, what do you mean? And he explained to me that his construction company was his foundation. That was his home base. He told me that if he had tried to start all of these businesses early on, he would have failed at every single one of them. The reason he was able to start so many other successful ventures was because he spent the first 10 years focused on his primary business, building it into something solid. He told me that starting a business isn't enough. You have to grow it. You have to stabilize it. You have to scale it. You got to put the right people in the right places. You got to build processes. You got to reinvent your product over and over and over again. And that takes focus and dedication, commitment. There's really no shortcut. But if you do it right, that one business can be the springboard to massive wealth and opportunities. And we ended up buying that lot from Ken, and I carried that advice with me. As I look back over really the past 20 to 25 years, I've never taken my eye off of my home base, which at first was my real estate investing company. And now it's my software and technology company. And that focus has allowed me to create dozens of assets and other income streams. That one strong foundation has become like a springboard for my own multiple streams of income. So as we go through this training, I really want to just help you choose one business to focus on. One thing that can become your home base. Because once you've built one strong, scalable business, the possibilities for additional income streams and more internal assets and future wealth just become limitless. And now let's talk about tax advantage income, because this is one of the biggest advantages to starting a business. If you download the US tax code from the IRS, you're gonna see it's over 5,000 pages long. And here's something that not everyone realizes, that a significant portion of that code is written specifically to benefit business owners and entrepreneurs. The government wants you to start things, to create things, to help sort of support the US economy. So there's thousands of rules focused on helping small businesses keep more of their income, to legally reduce their taxes and just encourage business growth. And it's much simpler to do your taxes if you're an employee than if you're a business owner, but that doesn't mean it's better. If you're an employee, your income is pretty straightforward. Your salary comes in, taxes are immediately taken out, and then you keep what's left, your net income. That net cash flow can be really significantly less than your gross income because you pay taxes right now up front. But as a business owner, it's completely different. When you own a business, the IRS allows you to deduct a wide range of business expenses before taxes are applied. So here's what that means. Instead of really being taxed on every dollar that you earn, you're gonna generate income, spend it on things that help run and grow the business, and then you're only taxed on what's left. And that right there is a game changer. So why would the IRS structure it this way? Because small businesses stimulate the economy. They create jobs, they innovate, they drive growth, which ultimately reduces the burden on government programs. The IRS actually encourages small business ownership by offering tax advantages that simply don't exist for employees. Let me just give you a few powerful examples of what I'm talking about. So, why do so many entrepreneurs and business owners drive 6,000-pound vehicles? Well, because they get a huge deduction. They qualify for accelerated depreciation. They can actually reduce the full cost of the vehicle from their income in the first year. This is a massive tax break. And what about office expenses? Well, I don't care if it's a home office, if you're renting a space, business owners can deduct rent, utilities, and office supplies. This is going to reduce their taxable income by covering these essential operational costs. And business owners can deduct expenses for travel related to their business. So this is meals, travels, entertainment, if you're going to a conference, meeting, or even a team event. And these deductions, well, they allow you to reinvest in relationships and growth, often cutting these costs 50 to 100%. And for self-employed individuals, health insurance premiums can be deducted from regular business income. And these are just a few, but there's dozens and dozens more. And I think the bottom line is pretty simple. When you own a business, you're able to keep more of what you make because of these tax advantages. The IRS has structured the tax code to support small businesses by letting them deduct legitimate and qualifying business expenses. So think about it this way. Imagine that you earn $100,000 in your business and you reinvest some of that income into growth and you have expenses. So maybe you're left with a net of $60,000 as taxable income. And you're gonna pay taxes on that, not the original $100,000 in total income. If we contrast that with a regular job where we may be an employee earning 100 grand a year, then we're gonna have taxes taken out immediately on the full $100,000 before we even get a chance to spend any of it. So the freedom to spend first and then be taxed on what's left is a massive advantage, and it's why the IRS tax code is so favorable for business owners. And man, the third reason why you should start a business is because I want you to get to know Allie, and I think you're really going to love her. So Allie stands for Asset Loan Income, and it's one of the most powerful tools out there, maybe the single greatest lifestyle enhancer of the wealthy. And here's why. So Allie is simple, but the impact is massive. Let's say you build an asset, whether that's a business or a piece of real estate, and that asset grows in value over time. Well, once it's worth something substantial, you don't have to sell it to access the value. Instead, you can just borrow against it. You can take out a loan that's completely tax-free. So let's say you've built a business or you've bought a real estate portfolio worth $5 million and it's generating solid income. That's actually how these assets are typically valued, based on the income that they produce. Now you've put in the work and you've got this asset that's worth millions of dollars. At a certain point, you might want to take some chips off the table, but you don't want to sell that asset itself. You don't want to pay taxes on that. So you just borrow against it. Say you take out a loan for $1 million or $2 million. So that means you're cashing in on the value that you've created without losing ownership or paying a dime in taxes. And this is a trick that the wealthy use all the time, because here's the kicker. Not only do you get access to that cash tax-free, but in many cases, you can actually deduct the interest that you're paying from your total taxable income. So Ally is like having this hidden financial engine giving you access to wealth without breaking up the asset that's generating it. I'm telling you, it really is the secret of how the wealthy keep building, keep creating, and keep expanding, all while keeping their assets intact. I've done this numerous times, and I can tell you from experience, Ally is an incredible tax-free way to fund your life and build even new assets. And the fourth reason that you might want to start a business is what I call the big payday. When you sell your business for a substantial amount of money, hopefully millions of dollars. For many entrepreneurs, this is a very real goal and an exciting alternative to the traditional retirement path. Think about the old way of doing things. So we're going to go to school, we're going to get a good job, we're going to work for 40 years. And if everything goes right, goes perfect, we're going to retire with a nice pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. Now compare that to the path of starting a business, working hard, creating something valuable that the world needs, and then reaching a point where you sell it for a significant payout. Plan B is simply a much faster way to financial freedom. And a lot of entrepreneurs are wired to start things. We thrive on building, creating, innovating, not necessarily on managing and maintaining a business long term. I've seen it happen time and time again. People who are really good at operating in their ikigai, their unique ability, they spot an opportunity, they get excited, and they bring it to life. But once that business matures, once it becomes a solid home base, they're ready for the next challenge. And at that point, they either hire someone to run the business for them, letting it generate, a huge amount of income so they can really focus on a new venture, or they're just going to sell it all right. So they're going to take advantage of the big payday. I think that's a powerful incentive. Building a business with an exit in mind not only allows you to create impact and income, but also offers you the potential for a life-changing financial reward when the time is right. The big payday is a big reason why you should consider starting a business, because it gives you the chance to create true wealth and achieve financial freedom way faster than the traditional career path. One of the most important things to me as an entrepreneur is the freedom to live life on my terms, to make my own decisions and not feel like someone else is making them for me. I don't want to feel like someone is measuring my self-worth. For me, that's like at the top of the list. I call it the free bird concept, and it's very simple. Most employees work for companies that keep them in a little cage. They're like this beautiful bird, capable of singing, creating, making the world a better place, but they can't really spread their wings. They're restricted, they're held back. But when you start a business, it's like opening the door to that cage. You get to fly. You get to see what you're really made of, and you can make decisions that are going to shape your life and your work. You're no longer just following someone else's plan. But I do want to give you a huge warning here, a code red warning right here, right now, because being a free bird requires discipline. If you think starting a business means that you can sleep in, work a few hours a day, and you're really going to expect millions of dollars to roll in, then no, that's not what this is about. It's not how it works. Freedom in business doesn't mean an escape from hard work. It means choosing the hard work that's yours. The way I look at it is this. I'm going to put in 6, 8, maybe 10 hours some days, and I'd rather be pushing my own rock than someone else's. And I hope that resonates, because starting and growing a business, it's challenging, but so is being an employee, following someone else's direction and doing what you're told to do. It's all hard, and I think it's just up to us to pick our hard. So if you're feeling like you're ready to open the cage and see what you're capable of, to own your time and your future, then that's the Freebird concept in action. And when you start a business, you remove your glass ceiling, because no matter how good a position you hold as an employee, there's always a limit on how much money you can make. Even if we're in a high-paying or highly incentivized sales role, there's still a ceiling, this glass ceiling. It's invisible, but it's there. And if you keep climbing up the ladder, eventually you're just going to hit your head on it. But as a business owner, that ceiling disappears. It's shattered. There's no cap on your income potential. You have the freedom to set your own goals, to decide how far you want to go, and to create something with unlimited potential. For you, maybe a few $100,000 or $1 million a year might be exactly where you want to be. But just knowing that there's no ceiling, there's no cap on what you can earn, that's That's a powerful psychological advantage. I think it opens up our sense of possibility. It lets us set goals and align sort of our lives with those goals. Entrepreneurship lets you live with this open-ended horizon that we have the freedom, we have the potential to build and be as bold as we can imagine. And one of the best reasons to start a business is impact. This one resonates with so many in our Freedomology community. I think it's just amazing to see how this single idea connects with so many of you. In F40, we're talking a lot about income and independence, but we're also not shy about saying that really at the core, it's about impact. And impact can mean so many different things. It could be the influence that you have on your kids when they see you out there, fully in the game. You're not watching from the sidelines, but you're making things happen. That's the example you want to set. It could be what you're showing your wife or your husband, your family, your friends, your community. And if your idea is big enough, maybe even it's impacting the world. So impact is a powerful force and motivator. It's something that comes from deep inside. It's not something on the surface. I'll be the first one to admit that when I started, it really was all about income and independence for me. I didn't have a home base yet. I wasn't financially free, and honestly, that's what I was starving for. I wanted that freedom, that independence, that time, and that money. But I knew in the back of my mind that once I got there, I'd be able to focus on things that were just more important to me. But it's funny how quickly things can shift. Once you start accumulating wealth, I'm telling you, don't just keep accumulating it for wealth's sake. That gets so old so fast. You're gonna get bored, and frankly, it can start to wear on you. You might even develop hubris, what the Greeks called a diseased ego. I've seen it happen dozens and dozens of times. People, friends who've lost their way because they just keep focusing on gaining more and more material wealth. So I want you to think about impact from day one. Ask yourself, how am I going to make my world or even the world a better place? Because that's where real fulfillment comes from. This income and independence, these things are powerful, but impact is what will drive you. That's going to keep you grounded and just make it all worth it. And I think right now, if you're watching me, if you're paying attention to the words that I'm speaking, you're probably, or you might be thinking, yeah, it's easy for you to say. But I'm telling you, you really need to focus on impact from the beginning. You need to begin with the end in mind, because when you start to grow your wealth, you're gonna have this incredible opportunity to change your family, to change your community, and I'm telling you, to even change the world. And let me give you one more sort of bonus concept that I think is really gonna be helpful. So picture this. So here I am, Greg Clement. I'm an individual with my own internal assets, right? My brain, my ability to see the world, to think, to create, that's an internal asset to me. And over the years, I've built these external assets that are separate from me. They're independent entities with their own life, even their own identification numbers. So when we set up a new company, we get from the US government an EIN. It's like a social security number for your business. So each one of my companies has its own number. It's this separate entity, this living, breathing thing. And I have this crazy idea to share with you. I call it onioning, or peeling back the layers of potential within an asset. And I'm gonna just explain, I'm gonna use my family farm as another example, Mapleside. So when we bought it almost 15 years ago, we thought we were just buying a piece of real estate, like this real estate property asset. But we quickly realized it was so much more than that. We actually structured it as two separate entities. We had this real estate holding company that owned the property, and then an operating company that ran the farm's businesses. So this setup is a powerful strategy I'm gonna talk a lot more about in Module 6, Protect, because I really want you to use it. But when we took over Mapleside, it was really, even then, just more than a farm. It had multiple businesses. So it had internal assets. It had a restaurant, it had a gift shop, it had a bakery, it had an ice cream stand. It had this orchard with over 4,000 apple trees. And when we looked over the one P&L, we saw the farm made most of its income in the fall, and especially during a specific fall weekend called Johnny Appleseed. This brought in a few $100,000 every year like clockwork. And that's when it clicked for me that fall was this incredible season for us. So why not create something bigger? Instead of like just one weekend, we decided to expand it into Pumpkin Village, a full season of themed weekends every fall. So we bought the domain name, pumpkinvillage.com, and we launched 7 or 8 different weekends with different themes. We had Johnny Appleseed, we had Hometown Heroes, where we gave free admission to first responders and teachers and police officers. We had Princess and Pirates Weekend, Superhero Weekend. We had Wild Wild West Weekend, which is one of my favorites. I actually got a chance to put a cowboy hat and cowboy boots on and just walk around the farm like an old cowboy, right? We had Spooky Fest and Pumpkin Fest. But the key here is we created a reason for people to keep coming back multiple times through September and October. And what we really did was we created this internal asset within the larger Mapleside Farms asset. Pumpkin Village turned into a business within a business. It generates millions of dollars a year in just a few months. And this is a perfect example of what I mean by onioning. Once you have an asset, you have to look deep. You have to peel back the layers and discover these new ways to accentuate its strengths. And we didn't stop there. We actually kept going. We noticed that guests left around 5 or 6 in the evening. So we thought, okay, why don't we take advantage of the corn maze, an asset, which was usually empty at night, and transform it into a wine tasting event. Well, that's when Vino the Way was born. We created this evening experience where adults could wander through the corn maze and they'd stop at wine or beer stations and we'd give them some charcuterie sort of under the stars. And this became a massive success. It sells out weeks in advance and it generates over $400,000 a year with only around $150,000 in expenses. And these are examples of the layers I'm talking about. Once you own an asset, you can creatively sort of peel back those layers and develop these internal assets that add value. You can ask who else, what else, or how else can you generate more income? So the farm itself was this big asset. Pumpkin Village was this big internal asset, and then Vino the Way become this valuable internal asset within them both. The important thing to remember here is that ideas alone don't generate income. It's the implementation of those ideas, and it's really the way you bring them to life. That's going to create the true value and can make you a fortune.